Hey, what's up YouTube? What's up everybody? Today we're going to be jumping into actually looking over the champion spotlight for VEX, the new champion that's coming out right now. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts, my general thoughts on it, where I think she's going to be played, all that jazz. So we'll actually just jump right into it. So obviously VEX, the new character that's coming out, kind of giving the Dark Annie vibes, I guess you would say. So first off we have actually is passive Doom and Gloom. Periodically, VEX becomes empowered by Doom, causing her next attack, next basic ability to interrupt dashes and fear enemies. So it seems like Riot is going to be, alright, yeah, we'll jump right into it. So as you can see, Doom and Gloom. Periodically, VEX is empowered by Doom, causing her next basic ability to interrupt dashes and fear enemies. So it seems like Riot is kind of done with, dashes. They're finally adding more anti-dashes. Gives me a lot of Poppy vibes, actually. So, periodically just probably means that it ticks in, and then when it's up, it does stuff. I feel like this will actually have, like, a pretty long cooldown, but it'll be up every time that you basically need it. I'm curious to see if, like, it comes off, like, you can reduce it or anything like that. I wonder if, like, CDR, ability haste, those kinds of things reduce it. So as you can see right here, it like interrupts people. So like if they use a dash, then they're gonna be feared as that occurs. So he jumps in. You can use the fear afterwards. Main thing is though is you have to use it as a you have to use a basic ability to do this. So it's not something like passively that does anything. You're gonna have to actually like do this. So one thing is that the skill cap of this character will be a lot higher. So like Poppy W usually, Poppy W is like a really good way to compare it to in terms of power level, which is like, oh, use Poppy W, that denies it instantaneously. You don't have to activate it. Whereas we're going to be able to actually activate it whenever you want, which means that you're going to actually have to treat it like a flay. Right, you actually have to use it as people use their dashes, etc. But mostly, I think this is really just important to be a fear. I think that the interrupt on dashes will be something that you actually use pretty often, but I think the fear is really the most important thing. So, abilities are going to fear people, basically kind of like an Annie element, where it's like, oh, next ability, boom, it's going to fear them. One thing to note, too, by the way, is at least on the wording, it says basic ability, which means that your ultimate, whatever that is, will not actually function in this. Gloom. Whenever a nearby enemy dashes or blinks, they become marked with Gloom. VEX's next basic attack against the marked enemy detonates the mark, dealing bonus damage and refunding part of Doom's cooldown. Okay, so basically, if, they use a dash or a blink, you can auto-attack them, and it detonates the mark, dealing bonus magic damage and refunding this. So if you have someone dashing a lot, and you're auto-attacking a lot, then you'll be constantly proccing this. One thing to note already is that there seems to be a lot going on with the passive. Casting spells and auto-attacking, which is pretty hard to do actually when you start actually playing like mages a lot of the time. Usually you're moving around just casting spells, repositioning, etc. But now you have an auto attack mechanic. So I'm kind of curious to see, and it kind of leads me to believe that attack speed items might be a desirable item on her. Like Nashor's Tooth, for example. Just because you want to always be auto attacking to get that stuff back up. So let's jump into the abilities, right? The Bolt. VEX launches a wave dealing magic damage to enemies it passes through. After a short delay, the wave accelerates but has reduced width. Detonates Gloom on any marked target. Yeah, so Gloom is... Oh, very interesting. Okay, so we already talked about the auto attack functionality, but actually this will automatically proc the Gloom. So you won't actually have to auto attack nearly as much as I had originally thought. That mostly means that the attack functionality will be kind of if your Q is on cooldown. Very interesting. So I just kind of want to visually watch this. You see how it hits somebody, it's slow, and then it like speeds up and then becomes like a missile or whatever. That means that it's very easy to dodge at point blank range, but it's actually very hard to dodge at longer range since it goes faster. And you can kind of see that the Gloom element of it is proccing and fearing them too. It seems like also one thing to note, by the way, is that the fear mechanic is hitting both of these players. So I guess if you have the fear mechanic, I think it's called Doom, right? Yeah, if you have the fear mechanic called Doom on somebody, or like prepared, and your spell hits multiple people, it will fear all of those players. Will not fear just the first one and then go on cooldown. Very interesting mechanic. So that means that anything AoE in her kit will be CCing people pretty often. Personal space. Alright, what a name. Vex gains a shield and emits a shockwave, dealing magic damage to enemies around her. Personal space detonates gloom on any marked enemies it hits. Okay, shockwave, dealing magic damage to enemies around her. And gains a shield. I don't know what the shield will be, but kind of gives me Annie vibes for sure, being a little bit tankier. Detonates gloom on any marked target. Okay, so basically, it seems like they put auto attack in here, but they're just gonna make every ability proc gloom. So I guess you never really have to worry about auto attacking at all. That was one of my concerns. This is interesting though, because that means that, you know, if you have the fear-like effect, you can jump on top of people and fear them very easily in melee range. One concern I have, obviously, is that without Roa, I don't know if she can be tanky enough to go in and, like, create space for herself. Because, like, right now, a lot of the AP items don't really have any tanky stats on it, so that would be like an immediate concern that I would have with this is just maybe itemization isn't favorable to her even if her kit's good. Looming Darkness. Shadow flies to a location, increasing its size as it travels. On arrival, shadow damage slows. Okay, yeah, they just basically they gave auto attacks as like a functionality, but you don't need to ever use it. You just hit your spells. So you shoot it and it explodes right there. That seems like maybe the bread and butter for your wave clear if you play her in a solo lane, because the Q gets smaller as you shoot it. So that will definitely be like what you end up using probably for wave clearing, AoE, and etc. Let's see here. Shadow flies. Okay, so this is the R button. Shadow flies forward, marking and dealing magic damage to the first enemy champion hit. Vex can recast this ability to have Shadow pull her to the marked target, dealing additional magic damage. If the marked target dies within a short amount of time of taking damage from the Shadow Church, Vex can cast again within a few seconds. Okay, so she has a reset mechanic. So she is like a Annie and Katarina combined. So she hits the R, she pulls herself forward, and then that would probably be how you W off of that. That's like kind of like your engage mechanic. And the thing that is noted, remember what I talked about originally here, empowers basic abilities. So that means that your ultimate is not going to actually fear anybody, which means when you pull yourself in, you're going to almost always press W as that happens. I mean, originally this character seemed like something that would, like, you know, be anti-dash-like. I mean, she just really gives me Annie vibes. She's just a fear mechanic of an Annie in general. I'm sure a lot of people are curious, like, will this champion be a good support champion? I think she'll be okay. I have concerns about her ability to poke people. I think basically your only mechanic for poking is really your E, so like the explosion from long range, but it might be hard to hit. That being said, I mean, having crowd control in bottom lane is always a good thing. I'm curious as to how much like HP she starts with, armor, etc. I know Q hits through minions, but the problem is if you kind of see right here, the mechanism that goes into Q is it's slow, right? It's big, and then it's very small right there. Like it's a very small thing, so it's going to be precision based and really difficult to hit, whereas like the E is a lot bigger. You can kind of see right here, right? You shoot it and it's actually like a pretty big circle, so you're more likely to actually use that as a harass tool than anything else. I mean, overall, I like the kit. It's definitely a bit unique. I like that there's synergy. You know, you can pull yourself in with the ultimate and then fear, you know, AoE fear people. The other two abilities, the Q and the E, seem pretty just like basic functionally. So I think that this character will just be a mid laner. I think that this is just a mid lane champion. Pretty much true and true. I think that you'll probably be able to play her support, and I think she'll not be too bad. One thing I'm curious about is how well you can time the W. So, like, for example, here, the radius on the W seems pretty big. Like, that's a pretty big radius. So I would say that actually she if you use the W well enough, she might actually be really good against engage supports, just so that because the circle is so big that you can W to interrupt engage supports engaging, right? Like, you can use this when it's up to fear like a Zenith Blade, to fear an anchor, like those kinds of things. So I think there's potential for her to like be a pretty good anti-engage support, but I don't know if she'll do that well against like enchanters, etc. It just depends on your skill shot accuracy. So I think that this character just in general has some like uniqueness, like definitely some good flow and changes to the character. I think that this is the most important part, is being able to reset off of your Shadow Surge, which is your ultimate. Being able to dash around over and over again and just, CC everybody is going to be kind of ideal. I also think that before level 6, you'll probably want to take things like Hextech Flash and Lucidity Boots, because she just seems like, outside of her ultimate, she needs to be able to get on top of people to get this W off. So I think that mobility will be an incredibly important element to her. You'll mostly see her mid, though. I think that people will experiment with her in support. I will, too. And we'll just kind of see from there. Overall, I like the design. I think it's actually cool, unique. It's very thematic, and it actually has like a lot of synergistic elements without me looking at it and being like, wow, this character is overloaded and it's going to be unfun to play against. So, like the character, looking forward to VEX coming out, the Gloomist. And really appreciate all the support. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment in the section below, and hit that bell and whistle. I'll see you next time. Peace.